We voted to leave the European Union. We did not vote to enter an agreement over withdrawal. We did not vote to spawn two new treaties, a withdrawal treaty and a future partnership treaty. We did not ask the politicians and the civil service to go off and map every aspect of our current relationship with the European Union and then try to recreate it by the back door whilst pretending we were leaving the European Union. We did not ask them to go off and find a way of giving all the money back to the European Union that we want to save by leaving the European Union. And we did not ask them to find a backdoor way of ensuring that our laws are still restricted and our parliament still controlled indirectly by the European Court of Justice or by the European acquis, their body of law which keeps on growing. Now I know we Leave voters, as far as the establishment is concerned, are all stupid. So maybe we haven't quite said it strongly enough to them that we knew exactly what we were doing when we voted to leave. We understand the meaning of the verb to leave, and what they are thinking of serving up is absolutely nothing like leaving. We were also told very clearly by the government at their expense and more importantly at our expense in a leaflet they sent to every household in their attempt to rig the cards over the referendum that leaving meant leaving the customs union and leaving the single market. And both major parties genuflected to that by either saying clearly in their manifesto or saying indirectly in their manifesto in 2017 that of course leaving the European Union meant leaving the single market and the customs union, and in Labour's case they identified quite an ambitious trade policy. I didn't agree with all of it, but it was a domestic UK trade policy that we could only create if we had left the customs union. So what is it that the establishment still doesn't understand that 2 years, 7 months on, I still had to witness in the House of Commons a long debate about whether we should stay in the customs union. This was settled, ladies and gentlemen, by the referendum. It is also settled, paradoxically, by my friends in the European Union, because they have made it crystal clear to the United Kingdom that you can't cherry pick to be half in and half out. They don't think you can be part of the customs union unless you accept a lot of other policies. Of course, they'd want us to make financial contributions and accept freedom of movement and many other of the rules of their club. And these were the very rules and the very requirements of their club that led us to vote to leave. So let us, as Leave voters, make it crystal clear again to that band of MPs in the House of Commons who still haven't got it, bright as they are, that we knew exactly what leave meant, and it meant leaving all those aspects of the European Union for one simple reason. We know we can do better for ourselves and our country if we make our own decisions. We are not backward looking, we're not afraid, we're not anti the world, we are globalists. We want to be engaged with the world. We wish to trade with the whole world and not just the European Union. And we know that the trade we have with the non-European world, part of the world, has been growing faster and will grow faster, and could grow faster again if we are allowed to make the deals with the rest of the world and to set the laws and the taxes that we need at home to exploit the manifest opportunities that trading widely with the world will bring. I want our country to be a leader for world free trade. And in the age of Donald Trump, who isn't terribly keen on multilateral trade agreements and has some difficulty with free trade, there is a role there for a large independent democracy with free trade proclivities to be the world leader for this very thing, which is why our country is being invited to join the Trans-Pacific Partnership by Japan and others. It's why our country is being invited to work with Australia, New Zealand and Canada as a free trade pioneer with a strong group of Anglo-Saxon countries, English-speaking countries, that believe in it and are developing it worldwide whilst the EU stumbles or delays. These are opportunities for us. But the big argument that we still have to have with our Remain fellow citizens is this is not mainly about trade and customs, important though they are. This is about something far, far bigger. It is about democracy itself. As Graham has said, he and I are united by this fundamental proposition that we want the British people to have power through their votes, and we want the British people as elected representatives to have power when entrusted by the people to pass the laws, raise the taxes, spend the money in the ways that we, the elected representatives, judge to be in the best interests of the country, and you, the public, will then decide whether we please or do not please. You will have direct access to us, lobby us, get us to change our minds, or that wonderful moment when you throw out the ones that have really made a mess of it. That is true democracy. And whilst there are clearly divisions in our country between Remain and Leave, I think in some ways the referendum brought many of us closer together. Now, Graham says that he and I would disagree about a lot of other things, but let's take an issue which used to divide, which was how much regulation you need to have decent labour standards in our country. I am fully in agreement with Graham that this country should have the best of possible standards as an independent nation. And I want us to lead that as much as he does. And that was agreement that broke out because we were all working together in the Leave campaign. And so whilst we want Britain to make those decisions, there is much more agreement now between the parties that we want high-paid jobs, high-quality jobs, good working conditions, because many of us from the right as well as the left understand that successful business rests on giving people good conditions, motivating, helping them, promoting them, giving them training, giving them backup so that they can have more satisfying and worthwhile jobs. I want to live in a high-paid Britain where the pay is earned by high productivity and where those of us in employment are supported by the best of technology and the best of labour saving support. That is the world we need to create, and we've been finding it difficult to create that world given the freedom of movement and the other rules that have been dominating from the continent of Europe through our membership of the European Union. Graham made a very good speech about the silly fears that are still being peddled by all those very intelligent Romanians. And I find it quite extraordinary that having wasted the year of the referendum campaign lecturing us that we were too stupid to understand the fears and that we had to understand the fears and then we would vote with them, and failing, they've been doing it all over again for another 2.5 years. Didn't they understand that we heard it all the first time? We did not believe them then, and I have one more message for them today. We still do not believe you. They told me the planes won't fly on the 30th of March because they'd be missing a piece of electronic paper from the EU. Well, it's strange then that Lufthansa and Air France are selling tickets, and I think they're right and the EU supporters are wrong. And then they told me that my local supermarket would be short of food because we would block the port of Dover to stop the lorries getting in. Well, you may have a low view of the government, but I don't have that low view of the government. I don't think they have any intention of blocking the ports on the Channel, and I don't think they even have the power to block the ports on the Channel. And I'm quite satisfied when the head of Dover and the head of Calais reassure us in Britain that they intend to have smooth passage of goods on the 30th of March if we have just left without having signed the withdrawal agreement. There is nothing in the withdrawal agreement that solves any of the problems they invent, and most of the problems they invent are entirely fictitious because free trade will operate. the food producer in France will still want to sell the food to the supermarket in Britain. It will be inspected probably at the farm and or at the French factory. It will still have the same electronic details sent in advance. It will be sent by an authorized economic operator, a trucking company that has all the necessary permissions. There will be an electronic filing. The VAT and any excise and all the rest of it, which is already a border issue between England and France, because we do have different VAT and excise, takes place electronically away from the port. You're not going to have to recruit a whole load of men and women to sit in little porter cabins with handheld computers trying to work out how much VAT or customs to charge. I have news for Remain. We've invented the computer, and we are going digital. And all these things can be done by electronic manifests and can be done away from the port, as they are today for excise and for VAT and all the rest of it. And I look forward to our government explaining this good news to us in good time for the 30th of March, so that everybody can carry on filling in the right piece of electronic paperwork so that the goods flow and we carry on trading. Ladies and gentlemen, I've always said before the referendum vote and after the referendum vote that I am quite relaxed about leaving with no deal. They gave me tough business audiences for most of the referendum campaign. Most of the people I was talking to didn't agree with me. But I think they at least respected my honesty, because I went on to say, I think we can do a deal better than no deal. I would like us to have a go. But the only thing I can promise you is that we will leave with no deal, because getting a better deal obviously depends on the goodwill of the European Union, and none of us can be sure about how much goodwill there will be about. But I'm in no doubt that the deal that I and Pretty and Graham helped vote down a couple of weeks ago was a very bad deal for the United Kingdom. And I'm in no doubt that leaving without such an agreement would be infinitely better. I look forward to the budget in early April to spend some of that money we're going to be saving. And yes, I want more money spent on health and education, as well as some tax cuts. I want the government to relieve the pressure on the motor industry, which has been gravely damaged in the last 18 months by the monetary credit squeeze on car loans and by the extra taxes they introduced and by the general threat to diesels from both the EU and the UK. We do not need to damage that industry, and that is currently being damaged by a mixture of EU and UK policy. I want them to sort out the property market so that more people can afford to buy a home and get the loan they need as young people buying their first home. That too would be possible with the right kind of budget immediately after leaving the European Union. And I want our Department of International Trade, which has been restrained from doing everything bar signing deals in the last 2 years, I think that was a pity, to then accelerate the work that I know they are trying to do and beginning to do, so that we can have those free trade deals with the many countries around the world that would really welcome a free trade deal with us. And I hope the European Union will be amongst those as well. So the last ask I have of the government is return to Brussels this week, Prime Minister, but tell them that our backup position is we will table a full free trade agreement with the European Union to come into being as soon after the 30th of March as possible. And the great news that if we do that and the EU says yes, in default of anything else, we'll discuss a free trade agreement with you, as soon as they have said that, we do not have to impose any new tariffs or barriers on them at all, and we have up to 10 years under World Trade rules to sort out the detail of our free trade agreement with the European Union. What is not to like, ladies and gentlemen? How doesn't that deal with any legitimate objections the Remain side might have? So that is my solution, Mr. Chairman. Leave to take back control of our democracy. Leave to take back control of our freedom and liberty. Leave because we are a great country and can be a great self-governing country again. And leave because we can be the pioneers of free trade. And if the EU is sensible, they would grasp at any opportunity we gave them to sign a comprehensive free trade agreement with an independent United Kingdom.